Let me take a moment to acknowledge some of the leadership that we sort of grouped with the other people. We want to acknowledge the Clerk of Courts for the City of Cleveland, Earl Turner. We want to acknowledge our Cuyahoga County Prosecutor, Mike O'Malley. I saw Mike earlier. The Mayor's Representative, Angie Whitson. Raise your hand. The President of Cleveland City Council, Blaine Griffin. And I saw the Judge of the City of East Cleveland, Will Dawson. This time, we want to hear remarks from the leader of this county, County Councilman, the Honorable Chris Ronan.
Judge. Thank you, Judge Nelson, and all the judges here today at City Hall. Thank you for being here. I want to give a special shout out to my friends from Cleveland City Council. I enjoyed working with you, and I always respect you. I was seated between two council presidents, Council President Griffin and former Council President Mike Polensek. You know, you can never rise too high in this community. You have to keep your humility, because out of the gates, Councilman Polensek said, "I see this agenda and I just forgot my sleeping bag." That was a note to me. He was speaking right to me. Thank you, Michael. Keep it real, keep it humble. Council President Griffin noticed, gave me a look, well, the pin I was wearing. I don't have my normal Cuyahoga County pin. Today I'm wearing a Cleveland City Hall pin. He looked at me, double take, but I'm all right, Blaine. I'm still allowed in the door. It's 6:01, right? Our councilmen, they wear a city council pin, an esteemed council pin, and I want to say to Judge Scott, you took the words out of my mouth. I was going to just acknowledge how few people, Jeffrey Johnson, how few people have walked the steps you've walked in service in the three branches of government of this great city of Cleveland. Let's give it up for Jeff Johnson for just that. To be in the judicial branch in service with the courts, and now ascending as a leader, as a judge, to have been at Cleveland City Council, and to have worked in the Cleveland City administration where I worked with Jeffrey Johnson, it's really an honor, and it is no coincidence that you picked this great city hall to be in here. We just call it 601 for the veterans around here, but it's no coincidence. I'm going to give you this pin back at you because I see you don't have yours on today. So when I step off, I'm going to give Jeffrey my City of Cleveland pin, because it was an honor to serve with him. And I just again want to say also to our city council members and our judges, but I'm coming home to city council. I even saw Councilman Jones up in the rafters there somewhere. Wherever you are, Joe, taking pictures. Thank you. Thank you for letting me back in the house to be here to honor our own Jeffrey Johnson. I will get broken up. You know my wife, you've already talked to her today. We are humbled to have worked with Jeff Johnson. He has taught us so much. And I'll just say where it started for me, but your history in this community, he's an institution, not because of what he did in that room, or the offices here, or the offices in the mayor's room, or the offices downstairs in community relations. Those were all amazing tours. But it's what he did outside these doors and what he continues to do outside these doors. That's why he is an institution in this community. It is what he does for the people of the community in service. I know him well now. He has been my friend for over 2 decades, and I know where he wants to be. He wants to be with the people of the city of Cleveland. So he has rightfully been elected to serve his fellow citizens. I want to just go back a bit, but I think it's fitting that we're looking over with a Glenville Tarblooders banner. Let's go Tarblooders! Congratulations on the championship. But you see what he did. He went like this because he served in the neighborhood ward where Glenville High School was, even though he's a railroader, and he's a proud railroader. I see some other railroaders in the house. We're a family. We're a family in the city of Cleveland, whether it was Ward 8, whether it was Ward 10, whether it was the state senate, whether it was community relations, whether it was the housing court, and now Cleveland Municipal Court as a judge. We're a family, and Jeffrey knows that. He went on from his alma mater in Collinwood on to Kent State, studied telecommunications. He's an excellent communicator. We all know that about him. He learned well at Kent State. He was a scholar athlete. I learned something new about you. I understand in between you actually studied city planning, which we'll talk more about that. He's nodding his head, something we didn't know so much about Jeff, but we also know him for his work as a graduate of Case Western Reserve from their law program. So he's been around these blocks of Cleveland, but he has served them well. Where I first met Jeffrey was in the end of 2001. And I'll never forget it. We talked about it just a few months ago. It was at Howard Bradley's construction firm in Glenville, and Jeff was returning. It was the night that he made his return to Cleveland. He was a returning citizen coming home, and he came home and he started serving immediately. We both owe a lot to our former boss, Mayor Jane Campbell, gave us both a shot. I know Jeffrey feels passionate about the opportunity he got. He started out, and it didn't take long to move to a director. He started out as a special assistant in the Campbell administration, but he quickly became the director of community relations, an office both he and Council President Griffin have held and served well, both of them ably. I never saw Jeff in a better role, and it's something that I'm going to stick to, although I know your best days in service are right ahead of you. Because the man of the people took community relations seriously for Mayor Campbell's administration. They loved him in Glenville, of course. They loved him in Collinwood, of course. But they loved him in Midtown. They loved him in Ohio City. They loved him in Cudell. They loved him in Old Brooklyn. They loved him in Kinsman. They loved him around town. He probably spent more time entertaining organizations and people of all different faiths and all different backgrounds in this very hall than anybody else in our administration. He brought the community in to City Hall. But he also found himself always in the community. I'll never forget how passionate the persons right in that Payne Perry neighborhood that's principally, it's a mixed community, but there's a huge Asian population there, loved Jeff Johnson. He would dine with them, he would talk with them, he would talk about community relations that matter. Jeff transcends our community in all its races and faces. So I was proud to serve in the administration, the Campbell administration, with Jeff Johnson. I was proud to later serve with him when I worked in University Circle and Jeffrey was our councilman. I was proud that he was my conscience. Now I know you had city planning in your background, but a lot was getting built, as you know. But Jeff was passionate about the character of the neighborhood, about the history of the neighborhood, about the culture of the neighborhood, about making sure that the adjacent neighborhoods in Glenville and Huff and Fairfax wouldn't change in a way that our character and culture changed. You kept me honest on that. You're a preservationist who tried to keep our building stock strong. Everything Jeff Johnson has done in his journey has been about purpose. It's been with a passion. So I was proud years later when I sat down in the first few weeks of my campaign with Jeff at Noble Beast, just down the street on Lakeside. I didn't know what he was going to say to me. We'd worked 20 years together. I was hoping I could get his support in our campaign. He looked right across the table at me and he says, I got you. I got you. And he never looked back. A few of our campaign team members are here today. I'll say like Mike Nelson said, Judge Nelson, I wouldn't be here without Jeff Johnson's support, without his leadership, without his mentorship. I wouldn't be here, and that's why I'm here tonight. Respect. Thank you, Jeff Johnson. And I want to finally say to my brother, who I text often, and God, I'm glad I don't have to follow Linnie Powell, so I'll get off the stage, but I want to say, and Jeff works his own event, by the way. He's orchestrated it from the front row everywhere. Mr. Hawkins, I want to say to you, thank you for giving us the Pledge of Allegiance, and thank you for being the gentleman you are. If you haven't noticed, he is helping people down, and I appreciate your leadership, a young leader in the hall. This is Jeff. He's inclusive about everybody. But I want to say, and I know Judge Scott knows this and our judges know this, Judge-elect Johnson is going to be a unique judge. These judges are about passion. They're about community. They care. They wouldn't be here in these robes if they didn't earn this spot here. You've got a great one joining your ranks. Because Jeff Johnson has a lived experience, a learned experience, an experience where you might stumble, but you're not done. You come back. Got his law license reinstated unanimously by the state of Ohio. He fought, he persevered. He is going to be a judge with a lived experience who can talk about having been places and can talk about alternatives. I respect him. And I want to say finally, say this a little in jest, but it was fun on the campaign being with you day after day, and I was there for you because we are brothers. But the only other experience, and Obi Shelton might relate to this with our mutual friend Leon Bibb, when I used to run the Wait Over Wednesdays, when Mr. Bibb would join the stage, I would carry Mr. Bibb's bags off the stage because Mr. Bibb was the icon in our community. That happened over and over on the campaign with Jeff Johnson. I looked at him and said, who's the candidate? That was me running. But I said, Jeff is an institution because he's been there for people. He's always been there for people. So I appreciate, my brother, the respect that you gave me and I give you. And it was an honor to work with you on the Campbell administration, my campaign, and your campaign. You're ready. And I finally want to say, Jeff's middle name is David, and on a serious note, once Council President Polensik and I were talking about his father, if I may bring that up, Mike, who knew his father. Jeff Johnson, you judge people by how they act when you're not looking. All our pastors know that well. And what I knew about Jeff Johnson was his father. And when his father was in Veterans Hospital care, he visited him over and over again, lived with him. He named a street after him, by David Johnson. That's Jeff Johnson, a man of the people who cares about people, who's a family man, who cares about people who've been there for him, and he turns around and he's there for them. Most importantly, the people that will see him at the bench in the worst days of their lives will have somebody with the empathy and the lived and learned experience to say there's another way, and I've lived it. Here's to you, Jeff Johnson. I look forward to working with you.
I got to remember, this is a hot mic. Councilman Polensik, you might need that mattress after all. You should have worn it. Thank you. In fact, before the next speaker comes up, I do have, there was much mention about the role that former Mayor Jane Campbell played in Jeff's life, and she can't be here tonight, but she did send a congratulatory note, and I've been instructed to share some of the contents of said letter with you. She is in Antarctica, so it'd be very difficult for her to be here. Plus, there's a big time change. So that's the other reason that we're not doing anything using technology. But she acknowledges the hard work Jeff put in, the humility he demonstrated, his commitment to this community. In fact, before I go to the next paragraph, all of you who served with Jeff, if you served with Jeff, Council, State Senate, in the administration, please stand. If you serve with Jeff Johnson in any capacity, please stand. Please stand. Marty Sweeney, I see you back there. This is a testimony to Jeff Johnson's community service and commitment to his community. All of you who are from Tar-Blooded Nation, I want to see you stand. Even though Jeff made the, sometimes we join different fraternities by mistake, or we go to the wrong high school by mistake. But the fact is, and Councilwoman Perez, I see you back there, Jeff Johnson continues a legacy of judicial leadership from Glenville, from the Glenville community. I think he's the 6th judge to come out of Glenville, out of that little neighborhood, 6th or 7th judge. Former Mayor Campbell also acknowledges from the days that they were young legislators in the Ohio legislature, when he'd have his Senator J.J. plates. Y'all remember those, don't you? The Senator J.J. plates on the little Cadillac, whatever it was called. You remember him? Oh yeah, you remember him, Senator J.J. And he walked like Senator J.J. too. But they were great friends. She had confidence in him when he came back home that he would be a valuable member of her administration. And he demonstrated the same as has been stated by our county executive. Another big hand for just the service of Jeffrey Johnson. And that's signed by Jane Campbell, who lists her congratulations, and her salutation is, congratulations, Judge. All right. Now, our next speaker. Some of you may not know her, but she is behind the scenes orchestrating, directing, and putting stuff together. I present to you Miss Lenny Gertrude Pye. Y'all heard what she said on the hot mic, didn't you?
No, they didn't hear that. I know Jeffrey. Okay, can you hear me? In my life, in the work that I do, there were only, come on, I got the whole, I can't read my thing.
I'm a hold it right.
Okay. In the work that I do, it's very important to have relationships. And in my lifetime, I'm 76 now, I'm not 26. There were 3 people who always stood up for me. The late Congressman Louis Stokes, the Honorable George Lawrence Forbes, and a young state senator named Jeffrey Johnson. And I've always, when Jeff got in this race, I said, we're gonna win. And I said, Jeffrey, we are gonna win, right? But I knew we were going to win. I've not stood at the Board of Elections in 30 years. I parked my car at 79th and Euclid every day when there was early vote. And I took my chair and Jeff's literature and stood on the corner of 30th and Euclid during early vote. Now I really like Jeff Johnson. I want to thank you. And I don't want to cry, because I'm not a crybaby. But you got Olivia playing all these church songs and all that. I want to thank you for always being my friend and taking my texts at 3 a.m. in the morning, no matter what I say. Now I'm going to read what I wrote, because I wrote 3 speeches, but I didn't think the other 2 I should read, because I was kind of mad. Judge-elect Jeffrey Johnson, I want to congratulate you on your election as a Cleveland Municipal Court judge. Judges have the authority based on the law to change people's pathways, and they have the discretion to truly help people within the law. In a few moments, you will soon be sworn into a distinguished body of people who are reflective of the residents of this city. Your election to Cleveland Municipal Court validates that voters of Cleveland remembered and appreciated the work you did as a 2-term elected councilman and your work as a state senator of the 21st District. I met many voters who remembered your work as a public servant all these years. I wish you well and success on this new journey. In the words of Nelson Mandela, I share this with you. Do not judge me by my successes. Judge me by how many times I got back up. Good luck, Jeff.
Thank you, Ms. Howe. Next, we will hear from our Democratic Party chairperson, Mr. David Brock. Mr. Brock.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me. Jeff, thank you. Councilman Polensik, we will get a sundial to time Chris Ronayne next time. Thank you, Mr. Executive, Mr. Council President. Thank you to everybody. My friend Jeff. Oh, geez. I met Jeff Johnson about 7 years ago when I spoke to my city councilman, my Cleveland city councilman, about who I was going to support for mayor in 2017, and that was Jeff Johnson. So he and my councilman and I went to PJ McIntyre's in West Park, and nothing forms a lifelong bond between people like overcooked, mostly fried food in an Irish pub. So Jeff, I'm glad that we've been here so long. We've heard a lot about second chances tonight and redemption, and rightfully so. But for me, the key characteristic, having seen Jeff 3 to 5 times a week, right, for the past year and a half, the key characteristic that separates him and makes him ideal for the bench is his genuine goodness, his good nature. He is, in short, a good man. And that can't be faked. Believe me, we would have seen it on the campaign trail over the past year and a half. And the stresses of a campaign across an entire city like ours would bear that out. Instead, over the last year or so, we saw the guy who was at nearly every single event one person could attend, who reveled in every single conversation, whether it was with a voter talking about the inequities of our justice system, a group of Democrats at one of our city's ward clubs, or reminiscing with someone about the old days on council. Through it all, Jeff was always there, willing to flash that smile of his and that laugh, that inimitable Jeff Johnson laugh of his. It is really his willingness to find it good in situations around him, to make nearly everyone he meets feel like they're being heard and that they have a friend in Jeff. And it's his ability to convey that as a part of his true being that sets Jeff apart. That's why he was elected in November, and a part of why he'll succeed in this newest endeavor. So Jeff, Your Honor, I'm so thrilled for what you have accomplished, the way you did it, and the example you've set for so many others. But most importantly, I'm proudest still to have you serve as a judge in the city where I live. Congrats, my friend.
At this time, the moment we've all been waiting for, Judge-elect Jeffrey Johnson, if you would approach, along with Judge W. Monet Scott.
I got pen right here.
Is it?
It's right here.
Okay, we can do this one the same.
Sign the certificate.
Oh, Lord. Ripping this up. Okay.
Hold on that. Okay. Step up here. Dana, come here.
What are you doing?
Let me please just acknowledge Director Frank Williams. Where are you at, Frank? Director Williams of Public Works, Tangi Johnson, Naomi Colston. These are the folks who put this together. City Hall, who I called, who was very flexible and allows all of us to be here today. So let me just thank the Bibb administration for their people for putting this on. Please give them a round of applause. I also want to thank my family who is up here. I have 4 sisters. One can only make it, and that was the one who thought she was a photographer instead of my sister tonight. She's from New York, so we got to excuse her. My other sister has COVID. She couldn't come from Washington, and the other 2 are dealing with other family issues. But I have my cousins here, and I thank everyone for being here with me. You know, when one falls short or when one takes a certain direction in one's life that you don't anticipate, family becomes so much more important when things don't quite go right, professionally or personally, and they have stood by me through it all, and I want to thank all of you for that. There's 2 individuals who no doubt would have been very proud, but they're not here. My dad, when I was 17 years old, suggested I become an attorney, and I laughed at him because I wanted to be a jock and I wanted to play professional football, blah, blah, blah. And he was delighted years later when I told him I was going to Case Law School and I graduated. And if he was here today to see me in the road, you guys know, he would be so proud. My mother also, who was delighted to get me out of high school with a C+ average, she tells everyone that, was delighted to see me graduate from undergrad and to get 3 college degrees along the way. She also saw me get convicted and get incarcerated and then come out and then be hired by Jane Campbell. And just before she passed away, I was promoted to become a member of the cabinet, and God bless, she was able to see my comeback. So, my mama. So I know they're very happy for me as well. Those who were with me during my campaign, Minnie Powell, you know, she really does send texts at 3 o'clock in the morning. But she also makes the phone calls. She also twists the arms. And she raised me a lot of money for my campaign. And she has given me so much advice, not just to me, and many of the elected officials. Minnie Powell, thank you so much.
She's one of those, quiet folks that run, like those still waters run deep. She's the one who called up Joe Biden and actually get a response. Her and Louis Stokes were significantly mentors of mine, as well as Brenda Hall. Let me just give a round of applause for Brenda Hall. Y'all know Brenda Hall.
He needed to come in and set up 2 accounts for his children. Their mother had passed. He's like, my wife has always done all the finances.
I didn't know when my bills were being paid. I didn't know anything. Luckily, Sierra was there to help us out. I'm Bobby. This is my banker, Sierra.
She's still doing it, y'all. She came to me when I campaigned and said she would be with me. She also worked with Sydney Sappho's campaign, and she helped coordinate this. People don't understand, back in the 80s, her and I actually were opponents. We ran against each other for council because she didn't like me. I guess I was mean, Judge Scott. But Mike White was our mentor. I took his position in council and then ultimately in the state senate. I have a lot to thank Mike White for, get my career started. But thank you, Brenda, for all what you have done. Appreciate you so much. And of course, we have so many folks here, but let me just make this official announcement that Lucretia Bolden, the Silk Voice soloist, is going to be my personal baby. So, she helped me in the campaign, but pastors know her so well. But she's going to help me with that learning curve, because there's a lot of whole different lingo in the general division that ain't over here at City Hall. So I got to learn a whole new language, and she's going to help make that happen. So I do want to thank Lucretia for all she's done. My folks who, there were 6 of us actually that were elected this year. 3 of them were incumbents, and Judge McCall, congratulations on your re-election. Judge Early, re-election as well, absolutely. And Judge Jasmine Lugo, Torres Lugo, also got re-elected, congratulations. And as you heard, Sydney Sappho and Bridget O'Brien, something about, you know this is on Conwell, Councilman. There's something about, what you doing? Okay, she already doing it. That bothering you? Oh, okay, I see. She already ready to take care of it, y'all. Okay, I got her on here? Oh, I see, I got you. And that's the microphone, that's it. Thank you. And of course, bottom line is when we're out on the campaign trail, I was saying that you know how much of a grind it is. How much you just got to keep doing it, particularly citywide. But we get to know each other along the way. And we hear the same old speeches each time, the same speeches, we got to get tired. You know Conwell, my councilman. So let me just acknowledge that I congratulate those who won, but I also want to just acknowledge those who ran but lost and how hard they worked as well. Give them that love. Just because you fall short, some people are examples of, I've lost a few as well as I've won, and so how you come back from losing a campaign, you can clearly win again when you come back. I just want to also acknowledge someone who raised money for me, who's a good friend of mine. He's also the former 2-term mayor of Cincinnati. He drove all the way up here. Mark Mallory, why don't you stand on up here? If y'all know Cincinnati, y'all know matters are like kidneys when it comes to politics. In fact, ironically, they gave me his brother, Bill Mallory, as my mentor. I was assigned by the Supreme Court. Mark's older brother is going to be my mentor, and I just want to acknowledge him and his family. And of course, the Democratic Party. There's power in the endorsement mailing. So thank you, Brock, for allowing me to be on the endorsement mailing because, I needed to win the West Side, or at least win enough votes on the West Side as well, and it pulled off. Can I ask those who are from Northeast Cleveland who were in my wards who voted for me to please stand when I was a council member. All those who were in that, because Ms. Exum, I know you're out there somewhere too. See, these are people, and I'm gonna try not to be long. In 2009, I decided to try to run again for office. And I went back to the folks of Glenville and Collinwood, and I presented my case to ask them to send me back into public office. And they were generous, and they voted me in 2009, years after going through the incarceration and the conviction. And I just want to thank those who put me back in 2009 that gave me the trajectory for me to be standing in front of you right now. So for the voters of Ward 8 and Ward 10, God bless you. Thank you so much for that. You know, when I was growing up in Glenville, and Mike mentioned it, but we probably actually had more than 6. He was talking about most recent history. But when I was growing up in Glenville in the Gold Coast, if y'all know Glenville, we know we were the Gold Coast. We had professionals, we had teachers, we had lawyers, we had all living in the East Boulevard, the Glenville, the Commonwealth area, particularly the Glenville area. And I saw municipal judges in my neighborhood who lived in my neighborhood who impacted me as I grew up. Those of you who know, have ever heard of Ted Williams? Judge Ted Williams was just around the corner from me, a wonderful family. I remember Chuck Fleming, I remember G. Merle Capers and Lillian Burks lived in the neighborhood. It was the judges with their dignity and their, that special something that the way they walked. And it was so special to see an African American who were judges in our communities as role models. And I just want to acknowledge that I'm part of that legacy as well. And it's important for me to recognize that I need to be that also for generations out there, to be able to be a judge that they can respect and see and touch. Not all judges actually go out into the community. We need more of them that do that. I intend to continue to do that, but I just want to acknowledge those of the past and connect the dots, if you will, of what I believe my responsibility is. I believe, first and foremost, what I do in the courtroom is significant and must be relevant and fair, but also what I do outside the courtroom is relevant, and I just want to be able to pay it forward. Let me just wrap up by saying, when life takes a certain turn, it is important to kind of be able to, first and foremost, oneself, be able to deal with it and not give up on oneself first. So that's where the faith comes in. It's important, you know, faith, family, and friends, but first and foremost, a lot of times my family and friends didn't have access to me because I was incarcerated, and I had to rely on faith. And so, but beyond that, it's important to know that people do help you along the way, and I just want to acknowledge the people. First of all, I acknowledge God because it was just me and him at Elkton. As I looked out the window, and all I knew is just keep faith. I had no idea I'd be standing in front of you, but I knew that I'd be all right, whatever the next steps would be 9 months later. But in 2007, with Louis Stokes and the late great Louis Stokes and the late great John Martin, Attorney John Martin, we went before the wonderful and great Nancy McDonald, who's the AJ, PJ, when I asked for my record to be sealed in 2007. We had a very good hearing with congressman with me, and John Martin was my lawyer, and Nancy McDonald listened and ultimately gave me and sealed my record. She was the one who didn't have to do it, but she did it. And I want to thank the late great Nancy McDonald for sealing my record and making it happen. And a couple more folks I just want to acknowledge. It's so important that the judges be fair. And one of the judges I had that was fair was Kathleen O'Malley, the federal judge. And even though I was convicted, she did things and reviewed and discussed and made rulings that ultimately departed and allowed me to have a better future by her departing 6 levels. If you don't, I know a lot of people don't know, you know what I'm talking about. So Kathleen, Judge Kathleen, was powerful when she looked at both of us and said that this is what I'm going to do. This is my turn. And she did a lot of things, didn't fine me, she let me stay out and do my appeal. I just want to acknowledge a judge who, despite the fact that I was convicted, was so fair in her analysis of what happened that ultimately she departed and I got out faster. And I want to acknowledge what she did at that level as well. So I appreciate that. And finally, last few things, is that when I came out in 2000, I was in a halfway house for 4 months, but Fannie Lewis, you need a sponsor when you get out. And Fannie Lewis was my sponsor. And y'all know Fannie, you know. So, thank the late great Fannie for that. But I interviewed with Jane Campbell, and she didn't have to hire me. But she, if you know her mother and her mother's history, you know that her mother did the same thing to a gentleman named Jim Raplin. Gave an opportunity for someone who just got out of prison. So Jane interviewed me, and I think she was making sure I wasn't bitter and crazy or something. She had to see it up close, and after that she hired me. And the press, the media did a survey on their news. And the survey was, should Jeff Johnson get a $50,000 a year job? They did a survey when I got hired. And those are the kind of things you kind of got to overcome. But Jane Campbell ignored them. And within a year and a half, she promoted me to her cabinet. So in her absence, thank you, Jane Campbell, for sending me on a trajectory for me to be here tonight as well. So, there are so many other people. Pastor Howard, you know, when we were trying to get my law license back, when the recommendation to the Ohio Supreme Court was to disbar me, that was the recommendation. Ben Espy, Richard Koblenz represented me. And ultimately, we won a unanimous decision by a Ohio Supreme Court led by the late, great Tom Moyer, who I served with on the Sentencing Commission, who we got to know each other. Unanimous decision that despite the recommendation, they gave me my law license back. And that too set me on this trajectory. So I do want to acknowledge Tom Moyer and the Supreme Court. So those are the kind of things that happen. We all have challenges. We all have issues that we have to overcome. My job now is use my life experiences, my second chance, and wear this black robe in the courtroom and help others get a second chance. I recognize that, and I intend to do that. So thank you so much again. This is amazing. I'm gonna lean on all of y'all because I have no idea of the level of responsibility until one does not know the level of responsibility until you wear the black robe. And Judge Scott was absolutely right. she sat and asked me that question, and I chuckled. This gentleman behind me came to me after your question to me, and he said, you need to think about, I'm leaving, you need to think about position. I have Judge Ron Adrian here, who has been a good friend, who's a former AJPJ, and we talked at length about diversity on the courts. Black males being able to be role models for those who come before them as well. And the final push, if you will, was Larry Jones, Judge Larry Jones. That was the final push. 3 weeks before he passed away at an event that another person who helped me significantly in the campaign, Anthony Hairston, Councilman Anthony Hairston, at his event, Larry Jones came to me and said, you need to think about it, seriously think about it, and he was the final push. And I so wish he was here with me because we also was together relative to City Council as well. So in his name as well, I'm honored to be here. I am happy. I didn't cry. I'm good. And so let's eat. God bless you all. Thank you.